6-year-old João Hélio Fernandes was born on March 18, 2000. He was the only son of Elson Vieches and Rosa Fernandes. Not much information is available on João's upbringing, but he came from a middle-class Carioca family living in the Zona Norte of Rio de Janeiro. On this evening, João was riding in the back seat of his mother's car, which was a silver Opel Corsa B sedan. His mother, a family friend, his 13-year-old sister, and himself were driving back from a religious center. They then stopped at a traffic light in the Oswaldo Cruz neighborhood shortly after 9 p.m., where 2 cars were ahead of them. One of the cars was a taxi, and 3 men suddenly emerged with 2 pointing handguns at his mother's car. They tapped the guns on the car windows to show they were real metal guns, surrounded the car, and forced everybody to get out. His mother Rosa was previously a victim of street assault, so she knew not to resist their commands. Everybody exited the car, and Rosa rushed to the back seat to help João unbuckle his seatbelt, but one of the assailants pushed her out of the way. Consequently, the car door slammed onto the seatbelt holding the child, which sent João's body swinging outside of the car. The men then sped off, and when they noticed João was outside of her car, Rosa and João's sister Aline chased the car screaming, but the car did not stop. The men noticed the boy was stuck in the belt and decided to speed and swerve back and forth in an unsuccessful attempt to get him off of the car. Witnesses say they saw the car speeding so quickly along the streets that João was flying alongside it, and in their words, like a paper airplane. They also reported seeing the child's body toppled over many times, bouncing against the pavement, the car's rear wheel, and several speed bumps along their route. Horrified onlookers screamed at the driver to stop, but one of the men was heard shouting back, "That's not a child, that's a Judas doll," referring to a Brazilian tradition in which puppet dolls representing Judas are punched and exploded. A motorcyclist pursued the vehicle, pleading with a man through the driver's window until a gun was aimed at his head, forcing him to desist. He later testified that once he got up close to the car, he could tell João was already dead. When the men passed by 2 different bars on street corners, people were horrified at what they were witnessing and shouted frantically at the car's occupants to stop the car. Another man later spoke of seeing the boy's little body hanging in the fetal position behind the rear wheel of the car, decapitated, and a stream of blood in its wake. They drove through 14 streets and 4 neighborhoods for 4 miles before reaching a dead end and abandoning the car with the child's body still attached to it. According to witnesses, they exited the car and searched it for any valuables before disappearing into an alleyway. By the time the car stopped, João's head, knees, and fingers had been torn from his body. He is thought to have endured the ordeal for 10 minutes before succumbing to head injuries. The assailants fled to their homes to have dinner and attend a local church party before going into hiding, but they were quickly caught after one of the men's fathers called police and told him his son had admitted to the crime. Less than 8 hours after the crime, all 5 members were quickly arrested and charged in the murder of João Hélio. João's funeral soon took place, where his sister called out crying, "Little brother, forgive me for not being able to save you. I want my brother. I want my baby. I want to hear his voice." Since the incident took place shortly before Brazil's carnival, nobody was in a mood to party. Although Rio had historically suffered a high murder rate for several years, the nature of the crime and the young age of the victim resulted in a statewide shock, especially for the people who resided in the neighborhoods along the route. The public reaction sparked a wave of anger, debates, and protests, as his death quickly became the talking point for Brazil's out-of-control crime problem in a city in which bloodshed was a daily occurrence. Brazilians demanded an end to violence and amendments to the Constitution to increase punishment of criminals involved in brutal crimes. Less than a week after João's death, he was memorialized at a soccer game at Marcanha Stadium before a match between Botafogo and Flamengo. Local residents led a march on March 10, 2007, along with other residents who joined as it passed to ask for peace and protest against violence, with João's parents at the forefront. There were 500 attendees who took the same route that the assailants took from the carjacking point to where the vehicle was abandoned. Throughout the trial, it became extremely evident that the assailants had all the windows in the car rolled down that day, and it would have been impossible to ignore the loud sounds of the child's body hitting against the side of the car's vehicle. The sentences for the 5 men are as followed. 18-year-old Diego da Silva initially came out of the taxi pointing a handgun and rode in the passenger seat and aimed his gun at the motorcyclist. His father reported him to the police that same night. He was sentenced to 44 years in prison, and while there, he ran a phone fraud ring with 3 other inmates, using cell phones to make up to 1,000 calls a day to random people, claiming they were holding family members hostage and demanding ransom money. 23-year-old Carlos de Lima, who was the oldest of the group, was said to be the leader and driver of the car. He was sentenced to 45 years imprisonment. 16-year-old Ezequiel de Lima, who was Carlos's brother and the youngest at the time, could not be named by police at first. But eventually, he confessed to being the one who shut the car door on João's seatbelt and was released from confinement in 2010 upon reaching the age of 18. Due to receiving threats, he has assumed another identity with the government's assistance and moved outside of Brazil. In 2012, he was arrested again with his wife for possession of a stolen vehicle and drug trafficking. 2 other accomplices, 19-year-old Tiago Matos, who was responsible for transporting the 3 to the carjacking, and 21-year-old Carlos da Silva, who accompanied him, were both sentenced to 39 years imprisonment. But after serving 12 years, Carlos was released on house arrest, and as of 2019, he has arrest warrants for committing robberies and has been on the run ever since. Many samba schools paid homage to João during the 2007 carnival processions. Rio's governor Sergio Cabral named a large new park after him, and the city's municipal government renamed the square near where his body was found after him as well. However, no legal changes were established since the boy's untimely death. May João Hélio rest peacefully in paradise, and wishing his family an abundance of healing in their lives. And thank you all for watching.